Be
I
nice
had
with
good
your
thoughts,
words, right?
Didn't want to shoot him down.
And anything that the committee doesn't like, you can put Heidi's name after it.
Yes.
Well,
All right.
Kevin, you got some big shoes to fill.
Continuing introductions.
My name is Patsy Murphy, and I am from Precinct C.
I'm Heidi Meyer from Minnesota CCD.
Claudia Fugly, MNCCD. We've already broken Kevin in, so you know what kind of group he's dealing with.
I started it.
All right, I'm not seeing anybody online yet, and we don't have a quorum, so we will avoid official business until we have a quorum or next month. And right now, the only official business we have is the approval of the agenda and the approval of the June 5th meeting minutes. So, that being
We have a
said,
beautiful scenery.
Some of them might be happening here.
yeah, we'll wait for it slowly. Do we have Christine? Yes, hello. Come on up. State Fair folks, nice to have you back. Year two. Yeah, we heard from the Metro Transit side of things last month, and there were a few changes. Some of them were good, so we'd love to hear from you all about some of the things y'all are doing to focus on accessibility at the State Fair.
Oh, we have one more person walking in.
Cool. All right, that's 8.
Do we have one now?
Nope, we need one more. But when we get quorum and after we finish this agenda item, we can decide then. But Christine, take it away. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And thank you to the committee for having us back. We're with the Minnesota State Fair. So my name is Christine Noonan, and I am the marketing director at the State Fair. And part of my areas of responsibility include accessibility and guest services. And then also joining me today is Blaire Huneke, and she is our marketing and guest services supervisor. So she is the one who is directly coordinating a lot of our accessibility services. And also Mike Hagen, who is our operations manager. And so he oversees a lot of the logistics and the operations side of what we do at the fair. So we are part of a team of about 90 full-time staff members at the State Fair. We are also all members of our department-wide accessibility committee that works on, so we have representatives from all different departments, and so we meet about every other month or so throughout the year to talk about accessibility and various improvements and that kind of thing. So what we're going to do today is Blaire first is going to talk a little bit about some exciting news that we wanted to share with you about a new service that we're going to be offering this year. And then Mike is going to talk about all of the transportation options that we have, and then we'll come back to Blaire, and she'll give us, if we have time, an overview of some of the accessibility guest services that we're going to be offering at the fair this year, and happy to take any questions as well. So at this time, I'll turn it over to Blaire.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for having us. As Chris mentioned, we have an accessibility committee that meets throughout the year, and we know that accessibility at the State Fair is an ongoing commitment and an ongoing process. So every year we're trying to introduce things that will hopefully make it a little bit better for guests. And one of the things that we really wanted to focus on this year was services for our guests who are blind or have low vision. So we're really excited that this year we'll be offering the IRA Visual Assistance app. The State Fair is going to fund that, so anyone who has the app will be able to use it for free while they're at the State Fair. We will plan to have both our transit hub and then also the Metro Mobility drop-off locations included in that, because we know that Metro Transit also uses that service. So hopefully it would be a seamless process for anyone who's getting to the fair via Metro Transit and then kind of starting their journey at the fair, that they can kind of use the app the whole time that they need it while they're there. Once again, it will be free for people to use. They'll have both the first 5-minute free call that they get with kind of trying out the app, and then also the State Fair will kind of fund it from there so we can have that available to everybody. We're really excited about this. It's just one, we know, small way that we can kind of make the fair a little bit accessible or more accessible for people who are visually impaired. We're hoping to kind of continue those services, but we feel like it's a great first step for this year to have the IRA app.
Can I, real quick, I'll go to Heidi in just a second. I'm just a quick question. So is it, and this is just my ignorance question.
Yeah, that's okay.
As you, because I know that all of the Metro Transit, you know, the system has IRA as well for folks to use. Is it seamless, or do you have to like, so if you're on the bus, you get off the bus, you're using IRA, you're going to the fair, do you have to like swap out folks?
I believe so, right?
Well, it's all per call. So if somebody uses one of their calls to get on the bus, so to speak, and then they get off of the bus and they're at the fair, and then if they start another call
Okay.
with a visual assistant, then that new assistant would help them purchase a ticket, get through the gates, get into the fair, kind of get to from point A to point B. So it's not necessarily an app that somebody uses the entire time they're there to help guide the whole experience. It's something that people use in shorter increments to help them find the ticket window, to help them read a sign at a certain vendor, to help them, count their money or their change, or they have to when they're starting to pay. So it goes per call. So hypothetically, if somebody started a call on the bus, that person should still help them get into the fair where they need to be. And then once you're in the fairgrounds, if you started another call, then you wouldn't see any difference in service. It's just kind of who's funding the experience at that point.
Awesome, thank you.
Yeah.
Heidi?
My question is, because I'm learning what this is, can it be also used for people who have processing problems? Or is it just for the blind, because that's how you're advertising it?
Yeah, so anybody who really would need a little extra hand from somebody to help read something, process something like you're saying, the assistants that you get on the other end of the line are trained mostly with helping people who are visually impaired, but they are also willing to help whoever calls. When we were speaking with IRA, they encouraged all of us to try it out and for our board members to try it out. So anyone who calls in will get help. They won't turn anyone away.
So it's a live, but you're saying it's a live person?
Yep, so I can back up to a little bit. When you call in on the IRA app, you're connected with a live trained person who then will help you with whatever problem at hand. So whether it's reading a sign, helping guide you from a building to the next building, helping you find a line in terms of the state
Or
fair.
gate number 9 when I get lost.
Exactly,
Take it back to
yes.
Metro Mobility, because I tend to think I'm on the right track, but
Yeah,
sometimes
so
I'm off.
you could hypothetically call in on the IRA app and somebody could guide you to where you need to be for that. So anyone who calls in will get help. They won't turn anyone
And
away.
they'll be open from the time the fair opens to when the fair closes?
Yes, it's a 24-hour service, actually, because they have interpreters or visual assistants on for any number of events around the world. So you can technically call in at any time and get the help, but for state fair purposes, if you call in during our hours, they'd help you at the fair for that.
Okay, cool.
And it uses the camera on your phone.
Yes.
Is that the same one that we use for the transportation that they were? Okay, then I have it on my phone. This is just one other cool thing I can use it for.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yep.
Yeah, there's a whole bunch of spots around the Twin Cities. I think Walgreens does it, Target does it, Nicollet Mall has it.
If that's true,
all bus
then that
stops.
gives me more
Our
independence.
airport was the first airport.
Yeah,
Yeah, the
the airport.
Yep,
yeah.
the airport.
Okay, that's cool. That's one more independence for me.
Yeah. Yes, and that's our hope. We hope that just whatever services that we can offer can just give people a little bit more independence and help them enjoy the fair a little bit more.
Thank you.
Awesome. Cool. Thanks for the IRA update.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Keep it coming.
I'll turn it over to Mike.
This is great.
Good afternoon. My name is Mike Hagen. As Chris said, I work in our operations department. I wear many hats at the fair, and one of those hats is transportation, so that's what I'm going to focus on today. Last year when we were here, we kind of shared some of these updates with you guys, some of the processes that we have, and I'll just kind of do the same thing today. As just a refresher and a reminder, and just kind of see where we've grown and changed a little bit as well. So we really have 4 main systems that feed the fair as far as mass transit goes. In our history of the fair, we've had at times over 50% of our guests come via some form of mass transit. In recent years, it's down closer to 40% since COVID, but that still is, when you do the math, a very large number of people that come to the fair in some way other than just driving themselves there. And so we try to make that as accessible and as convenient for anybody and everybody that we can. Some of the ways we do that, one of the means of, one of our kind of 4 systems is our own State Fair park and ride service. We have roughly 30 lots. That number changes every year, give or take a couple. But we have roughly 30 lots that are offering a free shuttle service to the fair. Not all of those lots have accessible buses, but some do, and we do mark which ones have those. And we do have one lot at Oscar Johnson Arena that is exclusively for accessibility needs. So every bus that goes to that lot has a lift, has all the things that you would need to get a wheelchair or a walker or a wagon or whatever it might be that you need to get around with. They have that available there. That's at Oscar Johnson Arena. And that one, unlike the rest of our parking ride lots, drops off at Gate 9, which some people call the Loop Gate. Gate 9 is on the south side of the fairgrounds. That is one of the 2 Metro Mobility drop-offs, which is one of our other legs of our transportation system is Metro Mobility. Metro Mobility drops off in 2 locations, one on the north side of the grounds by Gate 2, and one on the south side of the grounds at Gate 9, which again, some people call the Loop Gate. The other one that we talk about that you guys are also very aware of is Metro Transit and our partner express bus services. So we have our express bus through Metro Transit, Southwest, and MVTA, Minnesota Valley Transit Authority, I believe it is. Those cost a small fee to get to the fair. So they're not quite the same as our park and ride system that we offer, but those are also further out. They're further out in the suburbs in different areas. So they provide an additional excellent service. And so there are 6 Metro Transit lots this year, 4 Southwest, and I don't know if Minnesota Valley has more than one.
There's 3.
Is there 3? Okay. Yeah, so there's 3 for Minnesota Valley. All those are great ways to get to the fair. They drop you right off at Gate 16, which is on the west side of the fairgrounds, is our big transit hub. One of the benefits of being in our transit hub is we have bus ambassadors, people that work specifically out there. They have like a big question mark button, and they're there to answer questions to help guide you to your bus. What bus did you come from? What lot did you come from? Find all those kind of answers for you and everything. So we have those available at our transit hub Gate 16, and some of our parking ride buses also drop off on the east side at Gate 5, where there's also bus ambassadors. So wherever we have our bus system, we have people that are there to help and to assist and to do those things. I actually just found out today, if you remember last year, we had one of our coworkers, Hagen Bowser, with us. He's not here today, but Hagen is the direct overseer of all of our transportation. And he told me, and I didn't know this, that at Gate 9, we have an employee of the State Fair that works for the Oscar Johnson bus drop-off that's there for the entire run of the fair, the entire hours, all day, every day. So I didn't even know that we had that additional, they kind of qualify as a bus ambassador as well at that spot. So we have our own park and ride system. We have the express bus services from Metro Transit, Southwest, and MVTA. We also have Metro Mobility drop-offs, as I mentioned, in the north and the south, Gates 2 and Gate 9. And then we also have the regular routes that Metro Transit provides. So I got to read this here because I always get it mixed up. So the primary routes we highlight are Route 3, 61, and the A line. We also direct people to take the green line to the A line and then to our gate. So we have bus routes that run right around the perimeter of the fairgrounds. So there's a lot of ways you can get by bus to the fair. In addition to that, I also do have to highlight that we have 2 ride share lots. Uber, Lyft, or other rideshare services as well can use those lots. One in the north, one in the south. The one in the north is in the same area as the Metro Mobility drop-off by Gate 2. The one in the south is in a little bit different area. It's by Gate 7, right across from which is a common drive-in gate on Underwood Street and Como Avenue. But that's where the south Uber, Lyft, rideshare lot is. We work with Uber and Lyft specifically. We have contacts at both companies. We set up geofences so that it guides your drivers to those 2 lots. And if you were to call for a ride while in the fairgrounds, it actually kicks you and you can pick which lot you want to go to. So for instance, if you're at the grandstand, you're watching a concert and the show gets over, you can pull up your Uber or your Lyft app and choose which lot you want to come to get picked up for your ride. So we do that service with both those companies. This year, as there was potential for rideshare companies changing in the state of Minnesota, we know that some new rideshare companies are now out there and available. We don't necessarily contract with them yet, but as those services become more popular, that's something we probably will do. Usually they charge us a small fee, but it's something that's very worth that fee. And the last thing I'll mention is we do have on-site parking. We have parking lots on the north, south, and west, all of which have accessible parking and general public parking as well. No matter where you're parking, if you're parking in those lots, the fee is the same. This year, it's $20 to park in those lots. And inside of all the gates you would come through at those parking lots, we have our vendor Hometown Mobility that does wheelchair, scooter, and all those rentals services. So you don't have to go too far once you get in the gate to get to some of those services as well. So that's kind of my brief overview. If you have questions for me, I'd be more than happy to answer them or do my best to answer them.
Yes, go ahead.
On the 3 and the 61 bus, I know in the past there's been complaints about the frequency of the buses. They've been full and they've passed up
Oh, yes.
people. So are you increasing the number of buses or?
I don't know for certain. That's a,
Because I know they did it one time in the 3 bus, because they had 3F for people going to the fair because the buses, so many people were left stranded, basically. They couldn't
Yeah.
get on the buses.
that's something that we could talk to Metro Transit about since it's their busing. It's not something that we could necessarily tell them they have to increase, but we can have that conversation with them to see what their plans are and see what, their numbers are telling them.
I think that'd be a good idea.
Yeah, definitely.
61 bus isn't very frequent.
But you said the 3 bus for sure?
Yeah.
Yeah, 3
Okay.
bus for sure, yeah.
That's on Como, I believe, right? That's
Yeah,
the
that
route
takes
that's
you
on
right
Como.
to the entrance of the fairgrounds, basically, so. I think that one's used more than the 61. 61's on the north side.
Right.
Yep.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Jeff, this is the rare occurrence where it's not Metro Transit talking to us right now. These are state fair folks, but we can push on Metro Transit to increase
Right, right.
those buses during the
I
fair.
understand.
Heidi,
I know last month, to answer his question, they said they will look into it, but you can help them with the 3 bus and get them more pumped, to come, because he said he would bring out more people to do the buses, So his question is getting answered, it's just if they'll follow through with helping you guys, so. And then the other thing is, did the fare go up, because I remember many years West St. Paul, at Signal Hills had a stop. And I took that a few times to go to the state fair. Had the price gone up? I haven't done it in a long time because you're taking away my area. So now I have to go downtown to take the 3 bus. And the other thing is, are you telling people about that there's road construction in certain areas? So to get to the state fair, it's kind of like you have to navigate St. Paul to get to the right spot because it's not where, they're used to, because every so often I get moved to go back to West St. Paul. So you might have to tell people, because I don't know how long this is going to be playing out, and you don't want to lose people who don't want to go to the state fair because they're frustrated because they can't go home or get there or understand what you guys are talking about. So please talk about that. At the same time, you can get a good number to come.
Was your first question about pricing, bus pricing?
Yeah,
Okay.
because I remember many years ago, it was like $5 to get on and then free to go back home. And you just pay that, whatever, and it was West St. Paul at the Signal Hills, but you took that away, I don't know how many years ago. So I don't know if the price has gone up, because I know the state fair tickets has gone up. I didn't know if the rides have too.
And for the state fair run park and ride system that Mike talked about with the 30 lots, those are park free, ride free. The express buses where you park free but then pay a small fee to one of the service providers, including Metro Transit, those bus fees are set by the bus providers.
Oh, I
The
just
service providers.
remember paying $5 to get on, and then
Yeah, so
you took me all the way there and all the way back.
Yeah, so we don't, it is low. I don't know what it is off the top of my head, but again, those are set by the bus providers.
Okay.
So I can't say for sure what those.
I didn't know if it was just because you guys run it and you put it out there because you talk about it. I didn't know if you did the fee part too, to use that,
Yeah,
And they had like teenagers and young adults, taking the cash and then making sure we all got on safely.
Exactly. I know they're great partners with us. So,
Yeah.
and their ridership has been increasing over the last few years. So, unfortunately, I don't know those prices off the top of my head.
Okay, I just was just wondering, because everything else gone up.
Yeah, yeah.
So just a reminder to members, so unless it's on the state fair property or run by the state fair, they won't be able to have an answer for us, or if.
I didn't know
Okay.
if they knew, because I didn't know how it connects, because he was talking about the location, so I thought he might know the other answer to the question.
Yeah, just a reminder to members, if it's a Metro Transit question or a busing question, y'all, your guess is as good as ours, but, I mean, you might have the
No, yeah.
information.
Sometimes we
Sometimes we do, sometimes we don't. So we'll do our best to answer,
I
definitely.
appreciate that.
But from our website, we will provide a link to, for instance, Metro Transit directly to their state fair page, so you can find the information by coming to the fair. It's just, we'd have to point you into a different, page on their website, which. would
That's
have all the
good, at least
information.
you're helping us, that's what counts.
And the same thing on road construction, I think that was your other
Oh,
question.
Yeah.
We do have information on our website too about some of the major projects that might impact people's routes to the fair. But we are also in communication with some of the agencies that are doing that construction, and a lot of them are suspending their work around the fair time.
Oh, that's nice.
Yes, yeah.
That will help a little, thank
Yeah.
you.
It's a good question, Heidi, thank you. Claudia?
2 questions. One of them is for folks with hearing problems. Is there a way to help them out at the fair?
People with, who are deaf or hard of hearing?
Right.
Yes, yep, and Blaire can talk a little bit about that. We've got a lot of services for folks who are hard of hearing, for sure.
Great. And the other one would be some information for folks. Where can they get the buses to go to the fair? Where's the pickup, the drop-off area? And make it clear for people to show them how to get to that spot so that people aren't lost.
Yep.
And a lot of folks don't have computers or a smartphone, so somehow having it on media or something to show where the buses are.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yep, for sure. We do have a page on our website. We're in the process of restructuring it a little bit right now, but it is called Get Here. Okay. And so it'll cover all of the different options, and if it's a service that, again, that the fair itself doesn't operate, for instance, Metro Transit, we will point you to those websites
Thank
for all
you.
the information.
Awesome.
Any other questions on?
Yeah, Mike, the location by Gate 9, the horseshoe that you call over there, what kind of partnership do you have with the signage over there? Because there's that one signage, it's like either a brown sign or it's a discolored sign. It relates to, and it tells the buses that they can cut in there. But I know if there's a long line of traffic and everybody's waiting in line, the Metropolitan buses or any like transit on demand, like an accessible taxi, they don't necessarily know that they can cut in there to drop off. So, do you have any plans of making that signage bigger, or is there a way that we can do a temporary sign there which kind of highlights, the reason for the special turn-in or whatever?
I think the easy answer is yes. I mean, that's very doable. We have a sign shop, an in-house sign shop that does 95% plus of the signs around the fair,
You know which
so.
one I'm talking about? It's almost right there on that very edge of the turn.
Yep,
And a lot of times it's missed. If you're waiting in line, you're missed that sign because it's kind of small.
yeah, no, it's definitely something we can look at and we can look into, and like I said, we have our in-house sign shop that probably makes that sign, and so it's something that is on their list of work to do and put up, and so we can take a look at it and make it bigger, make it a different color, make it whatever we need to do. That's one of the nice things about the fair and having our own sign shop is we have control over all that stuff. You don't have to send it out, it's just done in-house.
Heidi, I want to let them continue and then take questions after, because I think a lot of the questions we're asking, you'll probably answer in the rest of your presentation.
Yeah, that's okay.
Thank you. So can you hold? Is that
Yeah, I
okay?
can
Thank
hold
you.
it.
Thank
It goes
you.
back to the sign thing, but.
Is there anything else on transportation?
I don't think I have anything else. If Blair, you want to?
Yeah, so one of the last things we just wanted to kind of discuss with you guys is a quick overview of all of the different accessibility services we offer. So we have a lot of things that are returning that you've maybe seen and or used at the fair before, and then we have a few other new things in addition to IRA we'll be doing this year. So first of all, returning, we will have the Momentum Refresh vehicle that we had last year for the first time. So that is the universally designed and accessible restroom that also has a hoist. So that will be back in the same location. We're really excited about that. Also returning, we'll have all of our ASL programming to help our hard of hearing guests. So those include a big array of free entertainment programs that we have pre-scheduled that will be ASL interpreted each day. So we have everything from things at the DNR building to Think of Farmer Magic shows, stuff for kids, stuff for adults. We try to get a wide variety of programs that we just kind of predetermine that we'll have interpreted. And then guests can also request to have the grandstand shows interpreted or some of our bandshell tonight shows. We also have ASL interpreters on site that if you need help with something throughout your time at the fair, we're happy to help with that too, as long as you contact us. We'll also be bringing back some captioning and some audio description that we've done in the past for free entertainment. Fraser will be back with their sensory-friendly building that they've been there at the fair for a few years, so we're really happy to have them back. And we'll also be having our sensory-friendly morning at the Midway and Kidway once again on Monday morning. Some of the new things, like I said, we already talked about IRA, but once again, with kind of our blind and low vision guests being a focus this year, we're gonna allow guests to request audio description for certain free entertainment programs this year. So just like with our ASL, if you give us a 14-day notice and there's a certain free entertainment show that you wanna have audio described for you, you can contact us and we can get that scheduled ahead of time. We'll also be doing some pre-recorded audio descriptions, mainly in our crop art exhibit this year, because we know that's kind of one of our more popular things at the State Fair, so we want to figure out a way to share that with more people. And then also, we know that a lot of our guests just simply use Google Maps to help them get around the fairgrounds. And not all of our buildings on the fairgrounds are easily found in Google Maps because they don't all have addresses sometimes. So we'll be providing as many addresses as we can, and that makes sense on our website for people to hopefully be able to just click on that, and then that will pop up in Google Maps for you. Two last quick things that will be new this year. We'll have an additional adult-sized changing table in our Care and Assistance building this year. So Momentum Refresh will be back on the north end of the fairgrounds, and then Care and Assistance is kind of located on the west side by the West End Market. And we'll have another adult full-size changing table there. It won't be the Cadillac of restrooms like the Momentum Refreshes, but at least it's another option for people to use if they need it. And then last but not least, we have another vendor coming this year that's a sensory-friendly vendor. They're called Joy Mobile. So there'll be another sensory space in the south end of the fairgrounds by Gate 9 for people to use as well. So we're really excited. We have a lot of programs. We know it's an ongoing process, and we'll hope to continue to add to this list, but we hope that what we're providing this year will be able to give even more guests the opportunity to come visit us at the fair.
Okay, now my question.
Amazing. Thank you. Heidi, go ahead.
My first question is, are you working with Metro Mobility in gate number 9, what Darrell was talking about, to see what works with signage so the people who drive both gates, if it's a problem on the other gate, do it too, and see what works so then they can do what Darrell was talking about and making sure they find it, and it's doable. I think it might be a great idea to work with Metro Mobility on that and see, this is what works for our people so they can find things that they're not calling and going, where the heck do I go?
Yeah.
Or what do I do next? It's something where you guys are happy, they're happy, you did what you set out to do. And are you going to also make it really clear that you have all these cool new options on the website?
Yeah.
And when I walk in, like if I get like a little map, I know I don't have to hunt through a bunch of stuff that makes no sense, but those things you just offered are kind of, stuck out there for the newbies who want to learn all this stuff
Yeah,
that
and
you're
I
offering?
have to apologize, I failed to mention that, but we have an accessibility guide on our website that is solely to give an overview of all of these programs. So it's under our visit tab on our website, and then it's one of the first things that you'll see is called accessibility guide. And that will have all of these programs, plus some that I didn't even mention too that we have. So that is all listed in one spot on our website too. And then all of our info booth staff, they also know about the accessibility guide. So if there's something specific that a guest is looking for, they can go to an info booth, and then those staff members will help people find that
Will I be
too.
able to, on the website, be able to, you know what a reader is?
Yes, yep.
Will I be able to read over it and
Yes.
know exactly what you're talking about? And it's
Yes.
not going to be funky and weird and?
That is the goal. We hope so. You know,
Okay,
we've
cool.
kept that in mind throughout our whole website. We try to always keep, screen readers and things like that in mind. So yes, that is the goal, is that you can use those things
Awesome.
and
All
you
right.
should be able to
I
get
think
what you
you should
need.
work with Metro Mobility because it's something that I think you two would come up with something really cool. Thank
Yeah,
you.
definitely. We have a contact at Metro Mobility that we actually just reached out to today to work on something different, just not on topic. But yeah, we have a contact at Metro Mobility that we work closely with, and we can get information back and forth and
And
come up
that
with
will
something
help.
beneficial.
And that will help in the future if the Gay Pride the festival that just happened, if they do decide to go to the state fair, because that they were thinking of different locations, then at least it's handicapped accessible enough to make it work, in all, other types of events you have there too. Thank you.
A couple of follow-ups to that. We also have a printed version of the accessibility guide.
Oh,
that,
that's
If you
cool.
have access to a printer, you can print it at home, or you can pick a printed copy up at an information booth when you get to the fair. So
That's
it's
cool.
not all just on online. Then the other thing with Metro Mobility is if you have had a challenge, like the driver wasn't aware where they were supposed to turn in or something like that, make sure you let somebody at an information booth know, or go to our guest relations office, because they have a direct line to Mike and Blaire and myself, and we'll make a call to Metro Mobility to say, hey, it sounds like maybe the driver wasn't sure where to go. Can you make sure that they have the street address or the gate address and that kind of thing? So
Oh, cool.
always, we can fix what we know about. So the more that we get feedback from people who are using the services, the more helpful we can be and work to make
Great.
improvements.
That makes me feel like, more confident, about going, because I'm still trying not to get lost to gate number 9. Because every year you go, it gets more like you redesign certain things, so then you have to learn certain things. So it's like a new path for people who have processing problems.
Sure, yeah. And we will give you a heads up. I think last year we talked about some redevelopment work that happened inside Gate 9. So it does look different once you're on the fairgrounds now, because we did do quite a bit of sidewalk work, lawn work. There's some new vendors there, that kind of thing. So it will look different on the inside than it has in the past.
Yeah, so some of us are going to have to relearn it at the same time we want to get back there and still have a fun day. Thank you.
Sure, of course. Thank you.
Darrell, go ahead.
So Christine, if I can acclimate myself to that space, you're talking about the space right in front of Gate 9 where they used to rent scooters and wheelchairs as well. And there used to be some flowers over the building. It's right next to the birthing center, right?
Yes.
Yep, I know it very well.
Okay. And then the one thing I wanted to ask Blaire was particularly how much are they using like QR codes? If you're using IRA to get around with folks that have low vision or sight impairments and other reasons, how much are we using QR codes? Because QR codes, we just heard a project the other day about Hello Lamppost, and that was a particular placement of QR codes along a particular transit corridor, and it gave individuals the opportunity to weigh in on particular options or how they rated their transit travel experience.
Yeah.
And I think QR codes are very underutilized, and I think maybe challenging for some to find. But I think for most of us, I think. You can put a wealth of information on there and it's readily,
Yeah.
easily changeable and
So we're planning on using some for those audio description, the pre-recorded things that I was talking about for
Yeah.
crop art specifically. There'll be some QR codes there, so an individual could just go up and scan the information, and it would be right there for them without having to find a staff member or ask or anything.
Wow, that's
and there's that space, does that space have T-coil in there for folks that have
Does the space have, what was that?
like a T-coil or a hearing loop in there?
I don't think we're familiar with
Yeah.
what T-coil is.
Or a hearing loop.
I highly doubt it.
T-coils are old technology, right?
No,
By
no,
hearing.
they're still utilized. I highly doubt they have it on the fairgrounds. Especially in the outdoor spaces.
But to your other point too about feedback, and kind of submitting that via QR codes, Chris mentioned our guest relations department, and that's what all of our feedback is funneled through. So we just ask that people either call them or email them, or you can visit them on the fairgrounds too. So we don't necessarily have like QR codes around for people to scan and then give us feedback, but it's just guestrelations@mnstatefair.org. Or like Chris said too, the information booths, that department specifically then funnels all of the feedback, all of the issues that come in, and then they send it out to the right people. So that's where we would direct everyone to give us feedback, which we always want to hear. So we don't necessarily have QR codes for people to just scan and give us instant feedback, but if you email us or you get the the comments or questions that you have to info
I
booths.
would just think about something like that in the future because I think people in general, when you go up to information booth, you're either going up for information
Yeah.
or you're going up to complain for a particular reason.
Yeah.
So most people are going to stand in line
Yep.
to wait to complain about
Yes.
something they complain
Yeah.
about.
But you'd be surprised, though.
Oh, yeah, I mean, my wheelchair, has a 50-mile charge. I can sit there for hours, I guess, but.
And the other thing I would just add too, with accessibility specific things, we do have an email for that too. So if you have questions or need assistance ahead of the fair, if you're trying to plan something, if you're trying to figure out how to get there, if you're trying to figure out what programming we offer, anything like that, if you contact us at accessibility@mnstatefair.org, we also have a summer accessibility coordinator who helps us implement all of these things during the summer. So we have more staff that's available to take your phone calls and take your emails too.
And so when does that staff start?
She has already started.
Well, she started, but she
Yep.
obviously started about
Yep.
a month
She's-
ago or so, I would assume.
Yep, she started about a month ago. And then once again, I'm full-time, so I'm there all year round, checking those emails in the off-season when she's not there, answering those phone calls, those sort of things. So we always have somebody who's willing to help out and make sure that our guests get what we need, as long as you guys, like Chris said, we just need to know, and we're happy to help.
Thank you.
Heidi, last question.
Is that the same thing if you have any other events at the state fair, at the state fair, we can make like if we see something, like if I go to the toy, convention or the gun thing or any of the events you have there, we can do the same thing we're doing at the state fair?
Yeah, you can contact us, and then we would probably pass that along to the event organizer, because we're not responsible for all of those events. But if you contact somebody at the state fair, we'll always try to get it to the right place.
Okay, that's just good, because what happens if I go to the state fair thinking, oh, I did that at the Minnesota State Fair, I can do that, the other thing, but you're saying that sometimes it might be not
It might be different,
doable.
yep.
Yeah.
We rent out the fairgrounds to a lot of other organizations, and for those events, we don't really have much say in how they're run. So depending on the event, we may be involved, we may not, but once again, just always contact us and we'll do our best to help out.
Good to know.
Thank you. Ken, is your hand up online?
It is.
Thank
you. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can.
There we go. Yeah,
Okay, sorry I arrived a little bit late. I missed the first part of your presentation, but I want to just share a really important bit of information that I think can be helpful in terms of accessibility.
Can I interrupt you 1 second? Does this have to do with IRA?
No.
Okay, good, because they're going to have IRA at the fair this year.
That's excellent.
Sorry, I just wanted to
got it.
maybe hold on, Heidi, please wait. I just wanted to, just maybe preempt that. Go ahead, continue, Ken, I'm sorry. Glad you're here, though. You helped us reach quorum.
Oh, great, thanks. So my comment is really more of a recommendation and a suggestion to you as staff at the State Fair. Unfortunately, because of years and years and years of having no accessibility, and I'm just going to speak for my own disability, my blindness, there was no audio description. There were no assistants that could guide me around the fair. And I'm quite familiar with the assistance that's provided for deaf fairgoers. For years and years and years, we've been asking for rattling cages for accessibility, and we've had none. Now there's a move to add audio description. Last year was the first year there was actually some audio description for some programs at the fair that are regular programs. But the problem is our community is so used to not having accessibility, we don't know it's there. And we wouldn't check it because we've checked for years and there hasn't been ever anything. So I really want to urge you that there is an immense amount of education that needs to take place, announcements, communication plans, to make sure that the word gets out that there is now accessibility being provided to some extent. Directing people to the accessibility page perhaps might be a good process, but I am an avid reader of our disability community newspaper, Access Press, and I've not seen anything related to the fair in terms of accessibility in that newspaper, and I don't see anything on listservs about what's coming up in terms of accessibility, and I'm pretty connected to the blind community. And so there needs to be a really concerted education, communication, marketing effort that these things are starting to be available and how one accesses those. Just a really important comment that I think until we start learning that we have accessibility things now at the fair, it's going to take quite a bit of effort to change the impression that the disability community has, especially blind, visually impaired, about what they might expect. And I can give you a correlation. At the city of Minneapolis years ago, there were 2 ASL interpreters, staff interpreters hired by the city. They were city employees. They attended every public hearing, every public meeting, and they provided ASL interpreting. So over time, the deaf community knew that the pressure wasn't upon them to request interpreters if they wanted to attend a public meeting. They could just show up and there would be a staff interpreter interpreting for them. That created quite an audience of deaf folks at public events. And then through budget tightening years ago, the city eliminated one and then they eliminated the other. And now it's incumbent upon the deaf person that wants to attend an event to make sure they have accessibility requested. And that puts the onus on the person with a disability. And I don't think that's the message that you're trying to send. You're trying to send a message of inclusivity, accessibility is here. And I think it's just going to take a really concerted effort to get the word out for the community to learn about it.
Hi, Ken, this is Christine. And I couldn't agree more. And we know that that we've got a long ways to go. And as Blaire said, when she started her presentation, we realize that it is a journey. This actually, for as long as I've been at the fair, working on accessibility, so probably 5 or 7 years, in the August issue in Access Press, we do work with Jay McClure to include new accessible features at the fair. She also includes a dining guide of locations that are wheelchair accessible. And so that's on the editorial side in Access Press. In actually the July issue that just came out, the fair does have a half-page ad in it that runs down a lot of our accessible services and talks about IRA and some of the audio description and that kind of thing. So that just came out in Access Press. So we do know that we've got a little bit of a communication challenge ahead of us. And in fact, I think you and I had a conversation along with our accessibility coordinator a few years ago, and I think that was the first time that we learned about IRA. And so I haven't had a chance to follow up with you yet to give you the good news about IRA. But I want to thank you for that conversation as well, because that did really help us understand some of the services that we need to work on. And I am going to follow up with this meeting. I still have your email address to find out about some of those listservs and that kind of thing, because as you said, we haven't had that much connection previously, especially to the blind and low vision community, and we need to. So to figure out what those listservs are, Facebook groups, that kind of thing, we're all in. We're willing to invest some money and some time in order to help get the word out. So I appreciate the comment. For sure, we know it, and we'll take it to heart and do our darndest to try and get the word out for people.
Great. Thank you so much, and thanks for being here.
Sure, of course. Thank you.
Thank you, Ken and Christine. This is David. Just to kind of put a finer point on that, I think there is some space in here to work on some promo materials, and in my day job, my agency, we'd like to work with you. And Ken, if you want to be included, I'm happy to do that too. Because I think this could be cool, Absolutely. Whether it's a strip article or a video or however it is. I think there's some space for doing some promo here about some cool new features that the fair's doing.
For sure, yeah.
Heidi, last question.
Well, that goes to what Ken said, and that goes back to what I said. If you can reach the whole community, not just the blind and the low vision, but people are processing hearing and mobile and the whole shebang, and kind of do with Ken's help, because he is right, then we can move forward in making some really big, differences. And with David's help and stuff and a few others at the table, I meant, I think we can really make a difference in getting the word out, because I asked those earlier and he wasn't here, but then he asked it in a different way, and together we are working to make this work. So keep that in mind as you're moving forward. Thank you.
Yeah, we'll definitely do cross disability, where we won't focus on just one or two specific disabilities. It's a great suggestion.
Because sometimes they only think about wheelchairs and walkers, and there's this bigger picture, and we get kind of lost in that picture.
It's a great suggestion. Thank you, Heidi. We'll definitely do, if we do anything, we'll do cross disability. I'll make sure of that.
Because he's right, I'm right.
Oh, yeah.
And they're trying to do what we were asking.
Yep, we're on the same page. Thank you very much. This was very informative.
Yeah, thank you so much.
And quite pleasing.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hannah. Thank you for being able to join us this month.
That was good.
Hi, good morning. Might be good afternoon at this point. Thank you for the invitation to be here in July. I was out of town in June. But my name is Hannah Pallmeyer. I am the Government Affairs Liaison here at the Met Council, and I use she, her pronouns. So Chair, if you're good, I can just take it away. All right.
Lay it on us. Thank you.
I know I've been here several times this year. The legislature wrapped up in May. So I do have a report for you all about what passed this year. And just as a reminder, I know we've talked about this in the past as well, but the state of Minnesota does 2-year legislative cycles. And the first year of the legislative cycle is when the budget is set for the state, and then there can also be other things that happen in the first year, policy changes, capital investment bills pass as well. And then the second year of the legislative biennium is often set aside for potentially a small supplemental budget, also policy changes, and sometimes a capital investment bill as well. So in 2024, we were in the second year of the legislative session. The legislature did pass about a $450 million supplemental budget, in addition to many policy changes. One thing that did not pass in the 2024 legislative session was a capital investment bill. There were kind of two main bills that were being talked about. One would have used general obligation bonds, so it's known as a bonding bill, and that bill did not pass. And then there was a smaller cash bill for capital investment that passed the House but just ran out of time to pass the Senate. So I'm going to spend most of my time today talking about policy changes that took place, and then happy to do my best to answer any questions about any other items. A lot of these will sound familiar to you all. I think we've talked about at least most of them at various parts of the legislative session, but there may be a new thing or two in there as well. So the first thing that I'll talk about is new updates to the zero emission bus law that previously existed, and the legislature made updates this year. So zero emission bus, or also sometimes known as electric buses, the Met Council, with the changes that happened in 2024, must establish a bus procurement transition strategy so that beginning in 2035, any qualified transit bus purchased for regular route transit or a special transportation service is a zero emission transit bus. When I was here, I believe in April potentially, we talked about if that would also be, if that would work for kind of Metro Transit buses, if that would also cover Metro Mobility buses. And the legislature decided to exempt buses that have a capacity of fewer than 15 passengers. So I believe that largely exempts Metro Mobility buses, but that's probably a better question for Metro Mobility than me. In addition to this new strategy, the council also must consider methods to maximize greenhouse gas reduction in addition to zero emission transit bus procurement. So that could include, but is not limited to how we do our service, reliability improvements, and other transit service improvements. And then previously, the law that existed had us doing a zero emission bus plan every 5 years. It would need to be updated. And in the new law that just passed in May, we will need to do a new kind of update every 3 years, with the next report will be due in February of 2025. So that is zero emission bus. And as I said, I know we talked about that previously. Another update that we talked about, I believe also in April or May, is that MnDOT, the Minnesota Department of Transportation, is going to evaluate the Met Council's efforts to deliver improvements in the reliability, effectiveness, and efficiency of Metro Mobility services. So that will be undertaken by MnDOT, and they will be required to submit a report to the legislature about that topic in February of 2026, so just shy of 2 years from now. The legislature also established a Blue Line Extension Anti-Displacement Community Prosperity Program, so there's this new program, and then a board is also established to preserve and enhance affordable housing, small business support, job training and placement, and economic vitality to benefit the people and the sense of community along the Blue Line Light Rail Transit Extension Corridor. And as a reminder, that is the extension of the Blue Line would go from downtown Minneapolis up through North Minneapolis, and then all the way into the northern suburbs, and it would end in Brooklyn Park. In order to support that work, the legislature reappropriated $10 million from an appropriation from last year, and they moved that into a different bucket to support that work. So $10 million will be going to support that effort for the Blue Line extension. And then one of the last kind of big items that I wanted to share with you is about arterial bus rapid transit and projects and how those projects are scoped with regards to ADA compliance. So in the new law that was passed, the council will be required to design, scope, and construct arterial bus rapid transit projects that ensure that sidewalk, curb ramps, and pedestrian signals will fully meet ADA standards at each of the intersections adjacent to a bus rapid transit station that are not ADA compliant already or are otherwise planned for upgrades in the near future. So what this will mean is that, the council already had the responsibility to upgrade ADA, this is always a little bit complicated for me to talk about. So usually our bus rapid transit stops are at four-way intersections oftentimes. So then 2 of the 4 corners of those intersections usually have a bus rapid transit new transit stop or upgraded transit stop on them. And then there are 2 of those 4 corners that don't have a bus rapid transit stop on them, but are still in the same intersection. And what this new law requires is that all 4 of those corners of an intersection where there is now a stop, that those will have sidewalk, curb ramps, and pedestrian signals that meet ADA compliance. The costs for this are going to be shared between the Met Council and the Road Authority. So if we are building a bus rapid transit project on a road that is a Hennepin County road or a City of St. Paul road or a MnDOT road, then we would work with the Road Authority on that and make sure that we are both sharing in those costs. And then in addition to that, the council also will need to design, scope, and construct any transit pavement markings, such as like a red paint on the road to indicate a bus-only lane, for example, or transit signal priority modifications that will help us improve our speed and efficiency of bus rapid transit service. And those upgrades will be paid for by the Met Council. So those are a couple of kind of bigger transportation items that will impact the Met Council. Not related directly to the Met Council, but something that we were tracking this year as well is the Transportation Network Company regulation. There was a bill that was passed at the end of session that will provide for minimum compensation for transportation network company drivers. So that includes drivers who drive for Uber or Lyft. And that law does preempt local government control over payment rates. The city of Minneapolis had passed a ordinance that would have put payment rates specific to rides in Minneapolis. And so the legislature decided to pass a law that would be on a statewide level, and that said local governments are not able to set additional payment rate limits for, or just payment rates in general for drivers. So I think that's kind of my big updates for you all, and I'd be happy to take any questions or potentially refer you to the staff people who might know more than I do.
I have no questions. Yes, Jeff?
It's a question on going from the 2 stops to the 4 stops. Did they put in a timeline as to when that work's supposed to be completed? 'Cause if you're working with multiple different agencies, it sounds like it'd take a long time.
Yeah, Chair and committee member, there is an effective date for that one. And I want to be clear, there's still going to be two stops for the bus rapid transit. It's just making sure that the corners that don't have stops, so the corner across the street from a stop, has those accessible curb cuts, for example, or sidewalk curb ramps. There is an effective date in the bill, and I will need to get back to you on what that is. Because we do have several bus rapid transit projects that are in the works, and it does not apply to the ones that are already underway in construction, but I believe it does apply to projects that are not currently under construction but will be in the future. But let me double check on that for you.
It's a good question, Jeff. Thank you. Heidi?
Does that also extend out into the suburbs, or is it just in the local areas? Because sometimes the local areas get all the funding for the push buttons and whatever new things to help the bus stops, because the more you go out to the suburbs, there are some areas that truly could use some of that help. Did they think about that? And did they think about winter when they made the bill for the Met Council and the transportation, MnDOT, you know, because some of that sounds like it could be covered with snow. So some of your ideas that they came up with might get lost in the picture. So do they have other ways to help in the wintertime with the funding and money? It's not just summer, spring, and summer, you know, and fall, I meant. Did they think about that when they were doing all that work, or do you not know the answer?
Yeah, two good questions. So to answer your first question, the new arterial bus rapid transit project scoping applies to bus rapid transit projects across the metro region. So it is broader than just the core metro. You know, examples of that would be the F line, which will be going from downtown Minneapolis up to Blaine. So that goes up through Hennepin County and Anoka County. And then I get these mixed up sometimes. I think the G line is the one that will go up and down the Rice-Robert corridor, and that goes down into Dakota County. And so, yes, it applies to bus rapid transit lines throughout the metro region. It's not specific to any road authority. It just says that road authorities in general, so that could be Dakota County or it could be Anoka County or whichever county that it would be going to. But it is just for arterial bus rapid transit projects. So those are you know, for example, I live pretty close to the A line, so it would apply to the lettered lines. About your question about if they took into consideration winter and, you know, the clearing that would be needed for those.
Yeah, because you had certain projects where we'll put red paint or we'll do this, and it made me think, well, winter's here, so you kind of lose some of your ideas, you know, to help the community.
Yeah, so that might be a better question for either our bus rapid transit team or for our maintenance and facilities team over at Metro Transit. So I think I would probably defer to them on that question. I don't believe there's anything in the bill or in the law that passed specifically about the different seasons.
Okay, well, they should have thought about that, because, you know, it's a great idea that you have it for the seasons when we can see it, but it's not a great idea if you can't see it. You know, so it makes it hard to make a bill work on all seasons. It's something to think about.
So the bill doesn't address snow removal. The whole jurisdictional, is it my job or your job to clear the snow will still persist?
No, it's just some of the projects that, you know, like they're thinking, it sounds like, okay, then you can't see it in the wintertime very well, but you can in the summer, spring, and fall, you know?
Yeah.
So it's just something to think about when you're back there, you know?
Thank you, Heidi. Any more questions for Hannah? All right, thank you for joining us, and thank you for the update.
Great. Thank you for your flexibility with my schedule. I appreciate it.
Oh, I hope you had a good vacation. All right. Are you filling in, Andy?
I am indeed.
All right. Do you want to go now, or do you have a few minutes for us to do agenda and minutes approval? You're good? Okay, cool. I want to get that out of the way while we have quorum. I think we'll keep quorum forever, but all right. So at the beginning of the meeting, we did not have quorum, so we did not do our two official business things. Now we do. We have exactly 9 folks. So I would entertain a motion to approve this month's agenda.
So move.
Second.
Patty seconds, because she's quicker than you, Claudia. Thank you, Darrell. Any discussion? All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed, no? Abstentions? Cool, that passes. I would also entertain a motion to approve June's meeting minutes.
So moved.
Jeff moves. Now's your chance, Claudia. Claudia seconds, cool. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no?
Aye.
Fantastic, unanimous again, cool. That was quick and easy. Andy, thank you. You got some statistics for us?
I do. How's everybody doing?
Good. We're here.
Pretty okay. What about yourself?
So far, so good.
Yay.
Are you coming back to the committee soon or what?
If I talk at about this volume, can everybody hear me okay?
Yeah.
Yes.
All right. I am Andy Streisick, currently acting as the Assistant Director for Metro Mobility. I am a white guy, clean shaven with brown hair, and I am here to give Metro Mobility statistics for almost the first 2 quarters of the year. Obviously, these were due to you guys before the end of last month, so not quite all of Q2. It's through 6/24. 92.1% is our overall on-time performance system-wide for that time period, compared to the federal threshold of 90. 96.3 is the onboard time performance system-wide compared to a federal threshold of 95. And then I need to call out the appointment times. Compared to the new interpretation of federal appointment time, which is just came down earlier this year. Historically, we have always said that an on-time appointment gets you to the appointment, obviously, by your appointment time, also no more than an hour early. The feds have said now that it is half an hour early, and that change has happened just this year. We obviously have our contracts in place. We bid them at 60 minutes. They have staffed accordingly for 60 minutes, and now we kind of changed on them to start enforcing the 30. So what we're doing is we are measuring against the new federal guideline of 30, and they are working towards that. But because of our existing contracts, we are still bonus and damaging based on the 60-minute threshold because that's our contract language. So year to date, if you measure it against the 30, we're looking at like 53%, 52.4% for appointment times. If you measure it against 60, we're up at about 90. Federal threshold for that one is 90. So obviously in the next contracts, we're going to have them staffed for the 30-minute appointment time. Next, we broke down just the ADA service area. And kind of what you would expect there, you know, not a huge amount of difference. 51.5% for those appointment times measured at the 30-minute, right around 90. If you measure at the 60-minute, 92.3 on-time performance for just ADA, and 95.9 for on-board time. It makes sense that the ADA trips would be slightly lower for onboard time because what we struggle with most with our onboard times are the really short trips. Because for some of them, the way our distance surcharge works, if you pick up one more person, you're going to blow the appointment time. I'm sorry, you're going to blow the max onboard time. So for a trip that's, say, less than a mile long, if that driver then goes and picks up one more passenger, chances are they're gonna blow that max on board threshold. So that is why ADA trips, because they tend to be shorter, and that's where those real short trips tend to fall, is within the ADA service area. That's why while we try to prioritize our ADA trips for performance, that max on board time tends to trend slightly lower for ADA trips. Next, if we just look at non-ADA trips, again, for onboard time, per my previous point, we're at 97.4. We're at 91.2 for on-time performance and 54.5 for appointment times. And again, over 89% for appointment times if we measure it against the hour threshold. Then there is a slide next that talks about denials. And that one you will see, as I think everyone's aware, that they were all in January, all 117 of them. And in fact, they were all in the first several days of January. So I think either 2 or 4 days into January, we quit doing any denials and have been able to hold that since. So for all intents and purposes, if you take out those first 4 days of January, we've had no non-ADA denials since then. And then lastly, not quite as up to date here, but we've been billed through May for our taxi services, our premium on demand services. We have had a little bit over 55,000 rides. We did 53,651 rides for ambulatory passengers and just under 1,938 rides for taxis, for folks who need a wheelchair or scooter accessible vehicle. On the subject of premium on demand, we've seen a significant increase in usage, largely, I think, because, of the pilot program that in areas that have fairly limited hours of service, they can schedule premium on demand rides later than normal Metro Mobility hours. That is still going through the end of this year. And we continue to kind of trend upward with usage. So folks are finding that very useful. I think that is it for the stats, and I will take any questions.
I have a couple about the decrease in non-ADA trip denials since essentially the first couple days of the year. Do you know why that may be? Is there just an increased attention to not denying trips in the non-ADA zone?
Yeah, we did a few things. We removed the 93% contractual threshold for ADA rides. We had said, historically that in order to get a bonus, you had to hit 93% on-time performance and 93% for both appointments and on-time pickups. We moved it down to 90 in an effort to prevent contractors from trying to hit the 93 and then denying non-ADA rides as an attempt to try to hit the 93. We also opened up the negotiation window further for non-ADA rides and said that folks could negotiate within 2 hours for non-ADA rides in an effort to avoid trip denials. So just trying to remind the contractor that, federal rules don't apply to those non-ADA rides, and we've heard over and over again, folks would rather be more flexible with their schedule, at least have the opportunity to say, yeah, I wanted to go to Cub at noon, but I can go at 10:30, and, have that play out. So we did those two things, but certainly the biggest things are the supply line for vehicles related to COVID disruptions has finally loosened up. So this year we're finally getting vehicles in, and we passed the amendment again to give drivers a more reasonable wage for the work that they do. I will say this until they carry me out of here. When I started, you could make more money at Arby's than you could being a Metro Mobility driver. That's ridiculous. This is a career. When you look at the skill set that is necessary to be a Metro Mobility driver and be a good one, this should not be seen as an entry-level gig. This should be something that is a career path job. Like Metro Transit is. And now we are hiring folks at a comparable wage to what the ATU folks are getting. And I just think that is nothing but good.
Nice.
It was a big cultural shift for us. It's made a huge difference with retention and a huge difference in our ability to get people in the door.
Nice. And I think it's not technically a Metro Mobility program, so you can skip this question if you want, and you can speak to anecdotally as well. Is Metro Move, is that increasing in ridership? Do you know by chance?
I mean, it is increasing still, but it's because we are still kind of mid-launch.
Okay.
Our Metro Mobility agency contract is going to run through September. It may be that in September, we may not be doing any rides on it. We'll see. But it will run through the end of September as kind of a safety net. I think there's about half a dozen agencies still on our agency contract. And then that'll go to Move. Couple things will happen here over the next several months with Move. Folks who are currently on the demand contracts, the non-agency Metro Mobility contracts, will have the opportunity to go to Move. That will be helpful, particularly for folks who are going to agencies who are either living or who are going to agencies that are outside the ADA service area, because the Metro Mobility agency contract only served ADA rides. So that should be helpful to folks in Move. They'll be able to get standing orders. There's no issue with hours of service. So, for folks on a waiver who say are working through deed with competitive employment, maybe they're out in Lakeville and they could get a job as a cashier working until 10 o'clock at night. Metro Mobility wouldn't have been able to provide that return ride home. Move can, if it's a waivered relationship through deed. So there's opportunities there to really better serve the disability community.
Thank you. I appreciate the detail. I
Sure.
wasn't expecting it, but I appreciate it. Jeff, and then Heidi.
Just a quick question, which is not totally related to disabilities, but in terms of retention of your drivers, do you have step increases or longevity pay or to make it more attractive for people to stay on?
Yeah, now remember, they don't work for the council. That is one difference between the ATU folks and our drivers. The holder of our East contract are Teamsters, and they do have step language. The West Zone and South Zone are currently non-represented. They're not unionized. But just as a retention strategy, they do have longevity increases that amount to step increases, essentially. The longer you're there, the more your max pay goes up. The one difference is if you get X number of complaints for them, X number of validated driver complaints or moving violations, accidents, you can forfeit some of that pay if they deem that you're not performing the way that they would want you to perform. But they do have what amounts to steps.
Thank you. Heidi, go ahead. And
My
then Darrell.
question is, and you kind of answered it earlier, I noticed a change when you call for a ride, it kind of matches up some of the stuff you were saying, because they're changing the times a little. Instead of going back so far, they're moving it up a little. And I thought, do I have enough time to get there? Do I have enough time to do everything? Because the timing, they're changing. Are you putting that out and teaching the people your new way of thinking so then they can start, planning more realistic, with all the changes?
Yeah, there's a couple of things with that. With on-time performance and appointment times, one of the things that we found when we looked at it is sometimes some of the providers weren't training the reservationists real well on all the different nuances that need to be considered. So if I'm calling to book a ride for 2:30 p.m. on a Wednesday, kind of our busiest time, the same ride that might take me an hour on a Saturday, maybe that should be an hour and a half maximum on board time on the bus. because it's 2:30 on a Wednesday, right? So that just the reservationist needs to be thinking through what day of the week it is, what time of the day it is, and making sure that they are giving a time that will allow folks to be able to be on time to their appointment, even if the driver arrives 20 minutes into the window or 29 minutes into the window, right? So we have very much focused on that. We've also focused on trying to empower drivers to call in and say, hey, I just got this add-on, but if I go get them, I'm going to blow my appointment time or my max on board time for this person. Now, dispatch might have to say, yeah, I'm sorry, but we don't have anybody else to go get them, so we're going to have to blow the appointment time. But we want to at least give that driver the power to create an opportunity for the contractor to say, hey, this may have been an oversight. If there's any way we can avoid this, it's going to mean a better key performance indicator for
Now,
the
did that
contractor.
reflect also on line two? Because, when they sign up, 'cause the only reason I'm asking this question, because I actually had it happen where something seemed like, that seems a little different, and I didn't know it's because of your new way of thinking.
No, the online booking has been problematic for appointment times because what it does is it looks at what is available when you book the ride and what Trapeze says they can do. So if I book a ride today for Sunday, 4 days from now, and I want to go from my house to the Spot Bar on Randolph and Victoria, relatively short trip. It might, and I say I want an appointment time of 5 o'clock in the evening. We are seeing instances for those shorter rides where it might say, all right, it's Sunday, it's not during the church rush, there's nobody else on that bus. That's a shortish trip. We can pick you up at 4:35 and get you there by 5 o'clock. Well, what's wrong with that? As soon as the bus starts running into the window, I'm going to blow that appointment time. That bus might show up at 5 o'clock to pick me up at home, and it's on time, right? Like it's within the window, and it blew my appointment time. So we are tweaking the online booking. There's a setting in Trapeze that's called favor the early portion of the window, and we've cranked that kind of all the way to the right, I guess, or no, to the left to kind of favor the early as much as we can. And that hopefully, we just did it about a month ago, but I'm getting fewer complaints. My staff are getting fewer complaints about unreasonable pickup times for online booking. And I'm thinking that hopefully has solved the problem.
Okay.
And this is Ken.
Hey, Ken.
Ken, go ahead and then.
Hey, okay. Andy, a couple of, one question and kind of one comment just to kind of ponder. In terms of Metro Move, let's just say that the rollover has been a bit rocky for some agencies. And when I say a bit rocky, I mean disruptive to the individual's programming. And when an individual is delayed in their programming, it causes a financial hardship on the agencies that are waiting for that individual. Everything's based on time. So everything relates to everything else. And so from a transportation perspective, we have either a weather-related event or whatever that causes a disruption in the pickup time. It's going to cause a disruption in the agency income level for that particular client because they're only paid in increments of time when the client is in the program. So those issues, the agencies, their hair catches on fire quite easily when that starts to be depicted. And especially coming out of COVID and everybody trying to reestablish their baseline, Some agencies didn't make it. Some agencies had to close because they couldn't financially deal with the pandemic. And for those that have emerged, some are struggling more than others to try to make financial means meet. So anytime there's a disruption in the income that's not caused by them, it's a cause for concern. I guess my bigger, and I'm sure you know that, and I'm sure you're quite aware of the issues that have transpired. However, there seems to me to be a problem with the way that the agencies are communicated with, and or the means that agencies have to be able to issue questions or complaints and have an adequate feeling that their inquiries are being met professionally. That also then adds to the frustration and just kind of lack of support to the program. How much longer is this? I think I heard you say until September, at which time is everybody on agency going to stop? And if they don't move over to Minnesota Move, they're out of luck? Or what's going to happen as we approach this September deadline?
Yeah, Ken, members of the committee, so there's a few things there, but to answer your question, by the end of September, everyone will either have to have gone to Move or gone to Metro Mobility on demand, just on the demand side of the contract, just booking in west, south, or east zone for their rides, or gone with a different transportation option if they prefer. My understanding is that the on-time performance in terms of the service delivery for Metro Move has been pretty good. I don't have specifics on that since I don't work for Move, but that's what I'm hearing. There have been, a couple of people who didn't realize they had signed up for Move. Their parents did it, and arranged it, or their guardians did it and filled out the service authorization with the county. So we got a few calls about that. How come? What's this Metro Move stuff? I do recognize that it is a fiscal impact on the agencies, not just because of the time issue you raised, because again, I think so far Move's doing okay with that, except for maybe literally the first day there were some issues. But the other reality is that there are lots of agencies who were getting $30 or $40 a ride, so $60 or $80 a day, to provide transportation. And what they were doing to provide transportation was spending $350 or $450 on a Metro Mobility ride ticket. And for people going to Move, that option, is no longer available. So that is an absolute revenue source that is no longer there, and we recognize that that's a potential fiscal impact.
Right. And I think one of the other things that needs to be brought to the light of day is the fact that most agencies today have moved to, and I'm drawing a blank on the correct term, I apologize, but the individual is the decision maker. This is a system now based on client choice.
Yeah.
And we have many significantly involved participants in our programs that are really creatures of habit. And anything new is so disruptive to the rest of their life. So having a change in transportation is not likely to be looked upon favorably by many individuals. But there seems to be something missing in the fact that how do these individuals get educated about the transportation changes in order to be able to make an informed choice whether or not they're willing to try that or do that? And agencies shouldn't be making those calls, and neither should parents or guardians, from the policy perspective that our programs are based on self-choice. And yeah, one could probably make an argument that a parent or guardian could make a decision on behalf of somebody. They have the power to do that, but it doesn't follow our guidance and our policies that we're trying to create intention by the individual and control by the individual. So there seems to be a gap there, and I don't know whose responsibility it is. Is it the agency's responsibility to help educate the individuals so that they can make a clearly informed choice, or is it Metro Mobility? Is it Move Minnesota or Minnesota Move?
Metro Move.
It falls kind of in okay. So that's not happening. Yeah, I'll tell you just straight up, that's not happening in many instances. It might be happening in some, but especially for those that are significantly more engaged in their disability, it's a harder sell to make.
Yeah, I mean, I can tell you, Ken.
Can I interrupt actually real quickly here, both Ken and Andy? So I think this deserves more attention. This was a Metro Mobility stats update. It was my fault. I unfortunately opened the floodgates with my Metro Move question. I think we should have an agenda item on this, maybe even next month, prior to the end of the September cutoff date for agency, because I think we should spend more time diving into this. Because we are running low on time, we still have one more agenda item. Ken, how would you feel about a full agenda item for Metro Move where we can really dig in, where we can really dig into this? Is that okay with you, Ken? Because I want to keep us on the agenda here.
And I'm even fine doing that off meeting time.
I think some of it
a little easier.
I think some of it can be done offline. I think it deserves much more attention than we have time to give it today. So we'll put a pin in the Metro Move side of this discussion. So if you have any questions about Metro Move, please hold them for a future meeting. That includes.
I don't really know about it, so I need to learn.
Okay. I'm going to give Darrell the last question. I'm sorry, Heidi. We do need to
I
move
still have
on.
one more quick piece.
Do it real quick. Do it real quick, Ken.
Yeah. I'd like to just plant a hint in your mind, Andy, about the potential. I mean, I read frequently that there are additional funding opportunities with the federal government to look at innovative responses to Metro Mobility, to paratransit, et cetera, and I see these periodically. And one of the questions I've always had is using past data, not new data, not an online current study, but has it ever been considered to take maybe a year's worth of data and have an agency like the Humphrey Institute, senior project class, take a look and run the data through an AI program to see if on-demand service would work? Again, it's just an idea. I'd just like to plant that. No need to comment, but there you have it.
Yes, we will not comment on that, but thank you. That is actually a really good idea, Ken, but we definitely don't have time to go down that rabbit hole. Darrell?
Yep.
Andy, I have one particular question. I've heard rumors. I've been on the bus the last few days, on and off in different capacities, and I've heard rumors that providers are incentivized by a $5,000 bonus if they don't have any incident reports.
So this came up.
So, is there any truth to that? Because I've heard this rumor on more than one occasion, and somebody's willing to provide me with some information and show me where they do get a $5,000 bonus if they don't have any incident reports. And I'm wondering, yeah, I mean, very quickly you shook your head no, and you're kind of smiling and smirking. So, I mean, I'm almost willing to bring this individual in and have him show me something. And I mean, I'm very, very cautious as to why you would easily dismiss it.
Well, this was in the OLA report, and we talked about it last month. About what did we do?
Different. Incident reports are different than complaints. And I think that's probably the disconnect is,
Okay.
We have no bonus or damage related to incident reports. You do get.
Do you get bonus related points to complaints?
Yeah, yep. But again, complaints are supposed to come in through the MMSC, so the contractor doesn't have a lot of control. We do require, and there's a large damage associated with if we catch a complaint coming into the contractor and them not forwarding it to us the way they're supposed to.
Yes.
But yeah, that 5,000, there's a couple of them. It's either we incentivize no denials with a $5,000 bonus, and we incentivize a lower threshold of complaints with a bonus. We got nothing at all related to incident reports.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Andy. We do need to move on. I apologize, everybody who had extra questions. We have one more presentation in 21 minutes and a lot of stuff to do. Thank you, Andy, very much for coming.
Thanks, guys.
All right, come on down, Dan and, yes, Heidi?
If you can do that meeting, I would like to learn more about it, because I don't know if it's going to affect me or not.
The Metro Move one? Yeah, we'll have it on the agenda either in August or September.
Do it in August.
I think we can do it. Yay. Thank you for coming. Apologize for eating into your time. Is 15 minutes, you think, enough? Okay.
All right, Chair and committee members, nice to see you all again. Happy holiday week here. My name is Dan Stoffer. I am the manager of the Instruction Center for Metro Transit's bus side. My colleague here, her name is Maureen Perryman, and Maureen is the assistant transportation manager out of East Metro Garage, right down the way here near the Regions Hospital area. I know several of you guys on the committee. I've been here a couple of times, definitely have worked with Patty and Heidi, and I've met and worked with Jeff, I believe, or worked with Ken on the some customer service issues, and so I've met him through the computer. But yeah, nice to see you all, and I just want to bring something up to you. About a year ago, I was actually here in the chambers speaking on behalf of Metro Transit in that bulletin called Where to Stop. They allowed me to come and visit with you guys about that and tell you a little bit about how we are training. And one of the things that I remember, and I can't remember exactly who it was, but one of the people on the committee said, hey, if you guys ever do any curriculum development with disability issues, let us know. And also, we may want to help you design it. And so I kind of stuck that back in long-term memory because I knew someday down the road we'd be designing some more curriculum on the disabled community. And it's here, and that's why I'm back. I brought Maureen because our POD program, it's POD, its abbreviation is called Professional Operator Development. It's been around since 2011. And typically what we do is we get a topic from our directors. This year's topic is twofold. One is cultural awareness and internal and external customer service. How are we treating each other within our facilities? Mm-hmm. The second half of that program is disability awareness. And I reached out to Maureen as a colleague and a friend of mine, and I said, hey, I need your help. I said, you're a subject matter expert. You work at a garage. I do not. I work at the center. So she's around operators and grievances and arbitrations and issues at the garage. And I said, would you mind coming over to the instruction center for 2 to 3 weeks and help me design this as a subject matter expert, because we need that. And she said, sure. And she's done a wonderful job really developing that part of it with garage culture and how do we treat each other internally and externally. And then I sat at my desk and I was like, I'm going to go back to TAAC and see if I could work with 1 or 2 of you folks as subject matter experts in the disability awareness area. You know, you guys have the expertise, you have the daily challenges. You know, you've grown up with potentially your disability. And I have a son, as you guys know, that's disabled. He has epilepsy. So I live in that community, but as a parent, not as somebody that's affected directly by it. And I would like to lean on 1 or 2 of you to enhance that part of the curriculum. I guess Maureen and I are looking for somebody that is a positive, forward thinker, somebody that could give personal testimonies and stories about how they've been affected by their disability, especially dealing with public mass transit. We are looking for someone that would be able to donate some time and work with us. We are looking for somebody that not only brings like real life testimony to the table, but also data and information that we could cite the source, whether it's a magazine or an article or, you know, different agencies produce different information. We're looking for someone that could maybe or perhaps knows of some good videos out there that you found on YouTube that describes how it is to be disabled and ride mass transit. We are looking for someone that maybe could brainstorm with us some ways of bringing the words on a screen, meaning a PowerPoint, to life. One of our best trainings that we have is it deals with blind awareness, and that's, remember I told you about that, that's where we blindfold people and have them board the bus. And just for that split second, they get to walk in the shoes of somebody that can't see. And it's very impactful, very powerful. And that's how you bring the words on the screen to life. And it develops empathy within our ranks. So I'm looking for somebody that has those abilities and would love to partner with you. And we do have a couple of ideas that, you know, I think when Metro Transit and people that may be non-disabled, when they think of somebody that's disabled, oftentimes they go to somebody that's blind, somebody that is deaf, or somebody that's in a wheelchair, because we can see that. But as you guys know, there's so many other disabilities out there that we can't see. I think I remember working with, was it Chesmo? Yeah, Chesmo, and she had epilepsy. And I remember working with you guys, and there are other disabilities out there that we want to make our people aware of and give them tips on how do you handle people? How do you provide good customer service to somebody? How do you exercise patience and understanding and empathy? So we're kind of looking at highlighting some other areas that we haven't talked about before. And we'd also like to focus on folks that are in wheelchairs. We believe that our blind and deaf awareness curriculum is pretty strong. We don't spend as much time on folks that are in wheelchairs as we would like to. Right now, it is a lot of technical part. It's how do you properly secure somebody that's in a mobility device. We want to get into the more of the people, the customer service, and how do you help that. We have a deadline. Our deadline that we would like to have our first draft completely done would be September 3rd. It's the day after Labor Day. So we're looking for somebody that would be able to develop between a 60 and a 90-minute program with our help. And we would need it to be finalized, all the videos embedded in the PowerPoint, the engaging part of it, that classroom activities, the words on the screen, the testimony, that would all have to be wrapped up by September 3rd. And then it goes through the approval process for the next couple of weeks. Everybody signs off on it and crosses the Ts, dots the I, and our rollout will be October 7th. The rollout will go to all Metro Transit bus operators, all Metro Transit train operators, all supervisors, and all managers. And so I know I've talked to the chair about this through email, and I would like to, just ask that if you guys are interested, we'd love to work with you, and maybe talk to your chair, David, and say, hey, I would really like to work with Dan and Maureen, and maybe they can share your name and your contact information, and then probably Friday, or how about if we would do this? If you guys could, because I know there's a lot on your mind and you have to filter this, but what if we would say by next Wednesday, maybe David could reach out to me and say, hey, Dan, here are the folks that might be interested. And I know that a lot of people might be interested, and that's great, but I really would probably need 1 to 2 people, just because I need to get some real progress on this too, because pretty soon State Fair is here. Maureen, do you have anything to add?
No, I think that pretty much sums up what we're looking for. A way to address different disabilities that may not be as prevalent as others, and how can we improve customer service, not only for them, but overall. Because if we can, if there's things that we can better do or provide a better service, then that's what I'd like to get to the operators.
One of the things that my colleague that couldn't be here today, his name is CJ, and he said that see if I can remember, so he said one of the tips that were given to him by an old driver was as you're securing the person in the mobility device, because there's some intimacy, you're closer to each other. One of the things is that he said, this person said, just ask them, is there any special instructions you need to let me know about? And so you have that opportunity to have that close proximity conversation. So we're looking for stuff like that, things that you've ran into over the years that you're like, man, if this operator would have just said that or did this or whatever, it would have made my life a lot more easier than what it was, and things. So, yeah.
I have a few questions, and then I'll go to Heidi. Actually, I have a lot of questions. Is this starting from scratch, or do you have materials already?
Yeah, so I think, Chair, the simplicity message on that is yes. It would be starting from scratch. We have some ideas, but I think the clay is in the middle of the table. It needs to be formed and shaped.
And in terms of the disability perspective or folks with disabilities, are you working with any other organizations or looping other people in, or?
We are not. This would be our group that we would definitely want to lean on. Now, if you guys collectively come up and say, hey, Dan, I think this organization or that organization, we'd definitely be open to that. But unfortunately, I don't know those organizations as well as maybe you do.
What are you thinking of a time commitment from an individual?
Yeah, that's hard to tell. It depends on how, and I know you all have lives and different jobs and, things that you have to accomplish during the day. It depends. It depends on what you would want to do. You folks could come and work out of the instruction center. I could find you a spot to work in our computer lab with a computer right next to CJ, and you could banter back and forth. Or we could probably do a lot of Teams meetings online and meet over the phone as well. We would be very accommodating to you and your schedule. Our core hours, just so you know, at the instruction center Our core hours are 8 to 4. So that's, if you would want to come to us, that's when we would be available.
That actually answers my next two questions. Heidi, go ahead.
Well, my question with, I'm trying to figure out how this all works, like you're trying to do, David.
Yeah.
Because I'm a little confused about what is my role exactly and what do I have to give to the table? Because I'm trying to understand all the different pieces. It sounds like I'm doing a lot of work, but I don't know what all that means.
Yeah, I guess, Heidi, how I would answer that is that you would be the subject matter expert. And so, what we're looking for is for somebody to kind of sit down with us and say, we have 90 minutes to teach this. We are going to dedicate 30 minutes to people that are in wheelchairs. And within that module, here's what we want to cover. We want to cover securement, customer service, and we're going to have them sit in our shoes, and we're going to come up with an activity where maybe they have to, push the wheelchair around with their arms and navigate around the classroom and different obstacles and things like that, just off the top. And then you would say, okay, the next 60 minutes, we're going to be dedicated to other disabilities, and we would brainstorm and kind of think about stuff. So Heidi, you'd be the subject matter expert, and you would bring a lot of knowledge and skills to the table to help us develop. We'd be picking your brain, in other words, and there's things out there even online where, Heidi, you might say, I got a great video, Dan, you gotta see it. And we'd watch it together and we'd say, let's use a section of that video for this module.
Okay.
Yeah.
One more question and then we'll wrap it up here. Maybe two questions. So this is internal training for, is it all staff? Is it operators? Is it?
Yep, it's all internal training. It would be for all bus operators, all rail operators, all supervisors, and all managers.
Okay.
So.
Okay. And then it's separate from the cultural awareness training, from what I understood?
Yeah, no, it would be all a part of POD. So POD is going to be roughly about 4 hours in length, and 2 hours is going to be dedicated towards culture and how we treat each other internally at our facilities. And the other 90 minutes is going to be spent on disability awareness with a transition in between. So we want to, it's a big deal to get, 1,300 people trained and pull them off their schedules. And it takes a long time. It takes about 10 weeks to do it, 2 classes a day. So while we get these people here, we want to kind of do both topics and do justice to both, giving them roughly both about 90 minutes each.
Okay. It's a little kind of, maybe semantics and kind of a philosophical thing. I wouldn't view those two as separate.
Yeah,
Disability is part of humanity.
Yeah,
We're 27%, we're 27% of the population. We have culture, lots of things in the world wouldn't exist if it wasn't for folks with disabilities and their ability to adapt to the world that's not built for them. And I would imagine a lot of, 27% probably of people who are watching this video have a disability as well.
Yeah.
I have a disability. You would know that by looking at me. And the majority of disabilities are invisible. I think that should be an aspect of this too.
Yep.
I think one of the othering aspects in our society with folks with disabilities is that separation. You got the disabilities over here, but then everybody else over here type of thing, when really it's just part of being human. We're all going to have a disability at some point in our lives, guaranteed. So that's a little more philosophical. I won't beat that drum anymore because I beat it a lot. We have 3 minutes and I have 3 people who want to ask questions. So,
Mine is interesting.
and I think I need to connect with you offline because I think this is a little bit more of a commitment than I had originally understood it to be, but I have some ideas.
Okay.
I think there's some interest from folks here. Patty, take it away.
Yeah, I guess in 2 words, I would say multiple disabilities. It's possible that somebody can use a wheelchair, can't use both hands. It's easy to.
Can we get into the weeds later? I'm sorry to
No,
interrupt you. You have
but
like
I'm
no
just
time to get into the
saying-
weeds here on this.
Yeah, I'll stop right
I'm
there.
sorry,
I'll
Patty.
stop right there.
Heidi and then Darrell.
Well, you answered my question earlier because when he was saying he wanted them separate, and then I was thinking they're together, and then you answered the question, so you knew where I was coming from. And I'm glad you're gonna have an offline talk about it, so we can understand better of what you're asking, because there's kind of like a bunch of different things that need to be cleared up and straightforward. So so if you got somebody like me, an example, that has processing problems, but has other multiple disabilities, I can give back what you really want and make it successful, and they can get what they want and stuff. So I'm glad you're going to be talking about it, so you can come back and ask the right people.
Oh, yeah.
Like, you can pick out of our group, I think Heidi, or I think this person, or I think this person, and then we can decide if we want to do it or not.
Thank you. Darrell, take it away.
Are the 1,300 folks, does that include all of our operators? Does that include the light rail operators as well, or just the bus?
It does. It's all bus operaters, all
So
rail operators.
It includes our circulators as well as does it include MTS? I mean, MTV?
No, it does just Metro Transit bus operators. Right now, I think we are, Darrell, about 1,100 bus operators.
So
And so,
it is part of their onboard package. They have to sign off on it as part of their employment.
yeah, so what this is gonna be is, what we think is we're gonna get the masses done, and then it'll live for a long time in our apprenticeship program. So new hires that come in will
Will
get
be
this
able to
training
filter through it,
after we get all the masses done. Yep, because we don't want it to just, it's like our blind and deaf awareness training. We don't want that to just be a flavor of the month of one-time shop. We want it to live on.
Right.
Yeah. But yeah, just real quick, I know Patty, I've worked with, like I said before, Heidi, Darrell, I'll look towards you guys, to, connect offline and, would love to work with you. And, you guys bring so much to the table. And like I said, if anything that comes out of this is just that Dan remembered, I remembered because that struck me last year. Whoever said that said, we need to, be involved, and I want you guys to be involved because you bring a lot to the table.
Yeah, no, this is very important. I'm really happy that you're doing this. I think that it's long overdue. And we'll get you what you need in one way or another. We'll get you what you need. This is actually quite related to what I do for my day job. So I think I'll have a lot more information for you. This was helpful. Thank you very much.
I'm glad you're clarifying it and getting us to understand it.
Oh, yeah. And thank you, Heidi, for helping doing that too. Thank you both very much for coming. Did you want to say one thing?
No, I'm good.
Okay.
And then on my purple line update, I do have a purple line update.
Okay. We're just moving right along with the agenda.
Okay,
Thank you
thank you,
both very
guys.
much for coming.
Yep, happy 4th of July.
Take it away, dude. You have no minutes.
So I have a purple line update for those of you that know about the purple line. It's going to, we're looking at bringing it down White Bear Avenue instead of down the Bruce Ventle Trail. But that's going to be a discussion for the next month or so with doing some community engagement. One of the first community engagements starting on July 17th at the Maplewood YMCA. You'll be able to come and view project boards and so forth and give your feedback as to what the project should look like. By the end of August or September, we will have to have told the feds which leg of the project we prefer. As it is right now, the feds do look at the Purple Line engagement project as being going down the Bruce Ventle Trail. But, if the numbers look favorable, they'll change their mind and in August or September. And I think we have a good chance of bringing it down White Bear Avenue, but that means that we reconstruct the whole street. We narrow the street, and therefore it controls the traffic a little bit better, and we'll have more options for folks that want to use public transit to access the community.
Thank you, Darrell. Ken, do you have anything for Green Line?
Blue line.
Blue line, sorry, blue line. Thank
Have the
you.
green light.
Yeah, sorry. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Real quick, the draft environmental impact statement has been published. We're in the public comment period, so if you're interested in that kind of stuff, it's fascinating reading, but it's really, really, really heavy. So that is available on bluelineextension.org. You can read that, and if you have any comments, there's ways to make comments about that. Next up is getting municipal consent, and that's consent from all the elected officials along the line, which is Brooklyn, the city of Brooklyn Park, the city of Robbinsdale, the city of Crystal, and the city of Minneapolis. And all those entities must agree to consent to the project before we get to the final environmental impact statement, which is probably coming next year at this time. So we're moving along, but it's very slow.
Good. I'm glad that's moving along, Ken. Are there any, so we'll move on to public comment. Are there any members of the public like to, who would like to comment, either in the room or online? Hearing none. Are there any members who would like to make a comment at this time? All right, we'll just go around. Claudia, then Heidi, then anybody else, and then Carrie.
There's a rumor out there that there's a new program coming through with dispatch, the routing and stuff. So
Okay.
I'd like to see Metro Mobility, whoever's involved with setting up the dispatch thing. You were there, Patty, you heard that.
Yeah, and what was it called?
It was
What
like the routing issues and stuff.
Like not next turn, but turn by turn and stuff.
She was saying that
It's
probably by
using
next year.
Google Maps, I
Yeah.
think.
I've heard about this. Sounds like an agenda item in the near
Yeah.
future.
That would be great if we can
Thank
put
you.
that on the agenda.
I'm moving fast, sorry, I'm not beaming on purpose. We're already over. Go ahead, Heidi.
I go to the bathroom, or at least I do anyway.
Go ahead, Heidi.
Okay, I just got on a 2-year term for Dakota County for the disability, so, it's overdue, and Dakota County finally got their act together. And so transportation might be a part of that, so please help me, and I hope you. So I just wanted to bring that to your attention, because Dakota County does have some suburb far away and up close where we can go to St. Paul. So if we can help them flourish, come, and maybe we can get somebody to come and talk,
Thank you, Heidi. Carrie.
On July 25th, there's going to be a 4th annual Southside Stop the Violence Community Cookout presented by Touch Outreach, and they were they're community activists that actually were on the train, and I've never felt so safe to have those people on the bus, because the buses are, not the bus, but the train has been more dangerous. And I think this would be a time for people to be able to come and talk to these people, and with your question, ask questions or whatever, and maybe have them come to our committee at some point.
Nice. Thank you, Carrie.
We should thank the people that are now at the train stations, the gentlemen that were helping us to be safe, and help us be on the right side of the bus so we can get the trains.
the
I've
trip
utilized them
agency,
and they're
I
very
like
nice people.
Can people come to you after this meeting and maybe take a picture of the flyer, Carrie?
Certainly.
Perfect.
I
We
just
are-
want, I
okay,
just
sorry.
want to make sure that it gets recorded that this is going to be at the Martin Luther King Park in,
40th and Nicollet, I think, yeah.
yeah,
It's a great park.
from 2 to 7.
Fantastic, thank you. We are adjourned.
Thank you.